That is wrong to do that. Because everybody who has justifiable mujtahidun that have given their proofs and their opinions about things, we have to respect those. If Mawlid is mukhtalif, there's a difference of opinion about it. Now what goes on is another matter. There are things in many of the ulama, like Ibn al-Hajj mentions, there are many bid'ah that go on in the mawalid and people should avoid them because of so many bid'ah. But the actual act of Mawlid, now in a country that makes war on the Mawlid, they're celebrating the 100th anniversary of the birth of that nation. Right now. They're celebrating, it's everywhere, I was just there. It's everywhere. The celebration of the birth of a nation. And when I came on the airplane, I'm telling you, this film was as close as you get to shirk. I mean, it was unbelievable. They had a film, and it showed first a desert scene, and it said, from the depths of the Arabian Peninsula came a man with a great vision, a man of the greatest character, a character of nobility and honor, a man of lineage, a man of truth and sincerity. And you're waiting to say the messenger of Allah. It was King Abdul Aziz. I'm serious. Right? And I'm not saying anything bad about it. I don't know the man, I didn't know him, anything like that. But when you want to talk about what came out of the Arabian Peninsula, get your coordinates right. Right? Seriously, it wasn't in Najd, it was in Mecca and Medina. That's what's great about that place. Really. And I told somebody, I said, listen, if it wasn't for Mecca and Medina, not a soul on this planet would be here other than Bani Harb and Bani Kalb and Bani Tamim. And seriously, no, who would go there? Alexander the Great got to the doors of the Arabian Peninsula, he said, forget it, let's go back to Egypt. Right? Seriously. Herodotus said, nobody's ever wanted to conquer that place. And that's a secret. Allah made it a place that was unbearable, because the one who could bear the greatest trust would come from that unbearable place. The messenger of Allah would come from that place. And that's why it's great. And look what Ibn Abi Jamrah said, one of the most beautiful things I've ever read about the messenger of Allah, in Ibn Abi Jamrah's commentary on Sahih Bukhari. He said, one of the greatest wisdoms of the hijrah is that had the messenger of Allah never left Mecca, people would think that Mecca was honored before the Prophet ﷺ because of Abraham. And they wouldn't see that the deep honor that the messenger of Allah had just by his very being. And this is why he said Medina, a place that had no honor before the messenger of Allah made hijrah. So when he went there, it was a proof that the haram became a haram, because just like Abraham made Mecca a haram, alayhi salam, our Prophet ﷺ made Medina a haram. And then he said, even more so than that, the most honored place in the whole city was the masjid, because that's the place he spent the most time. And the most honored place in the masjid was the Rawda, because it was between his house and the mihrab, and he spent more time walking between those two places than any other place in the masjid. And the most sacred place in the entire universe, by ijma', according to Qadi Iyad in the Shifa, is the place that contains the blessed body of our Messenger of Allah. That is ijma', mujma' alayh. And it's a rawda. It's a rawda min riyad al-jannah. It's in paradise. That place is in paradise. So what I would just say is beware, of mukhtalifi. If it is a valid difference of opinion, and valid means rightly guided imams have differed in it, like photography. Rightly guided imams have said it's haram, and rightly guided imams have said it's permissible, it's mubah, depending on what's in it, of course. Right? So that's a difference of opinion. If you don't like it, don't use it. But don't condemn other people. And there is a permissibility of calling people to the more cautious position, but you do it with lutf and a recognition that if they don't respond to it, you can't condemn them, because it's mukhtalaf fihi. وَالْخُرُوجَ عَنَ الْخِلَافِ مُسْتَحَبْ. To get out of khilaf is mustahab according to the qawaid al-fiqhiyah. So if that's all you learn tonight, I'm telling you, that is, utilizing this qaida can unite this ummah. Right? Really. And then finally, after all of those things, is then mira, which is argumentation. We have to stop arguing. Argumentation has no benefit in this deen, none. Imam Malik would leave when there was argument. If people start arguing, and somebody, I'll tell you, and I'm just starting to get, people have to realize, if somebody has studied the deen for several years and you have not, you cannot argue with that person, even if you disagree with them, because you do not have the requisite information to argue with that person. Argumentation is something that is makruh amongst the ulama, but it's haram amongst the awam, according to the ulama. And this is why Imam al-Ghazali said, leave knowledge to the ulama. Leave knowledge to the ulama. That does not mean don't become a scholar. But what it means is if you're not an alim, don't start speaking about knowledge because you don't have it. And this is why Imam al-Bukhari says, Bab al-ilmi qabla al-qawli wal-amal, the book or the chapter of knowledge before speaking or doing anything. So really, we have to guard our tongues about argumentation. I mean, there's people argue all the time now. And this is why Imam Ali was asked, how do you know a man? He said, if he speaks, I know who he is instantly. And if he shuts up, I'll work it out in a day. Right? Somebody speaks, he'll expose himself immediately. Either he's a fool or he's an intelligent person, because a man lies hidden under his tongue. So we have to learn our place in the world. This is part of adab. Really, it's part of adab. A student of knowledge is not the same as somebody who's not a student of knowledge. And just because you have your book like Fiqh Sunnah in your house in translation, and your Muhsin Khan Bukhari in translation, and your Noble Quran in translation, does not mean that you are a scholar or even a student of knowledge. Because one of the secrets of this deen is it's taken from other human beings. Allamahu shadid al-quwwa. The messenger of Allah was taught by Jibreel. The ulama say the wisdom in that is to teach the ummah that knowledge is taken from teachers. And he said, إِنَّمَا بُعِثْتُ مُعَلِّمًا. Right? The Prophet was sent to teach people, but he himself was taught, and he was taught by somebody who was less in stature than he was. Which is a sign that we should take from people. Somebody might know tajweed and that's all he knows. And I might be a faqih. And so my knowledge is greater than his knowledge, because knowledge of fiqh is over knowledge of tajweed. But I have to humble myself if I don't know tajweed and go to him and have him teach me tajweed. We have to be humble, and you cannot learn. One of the Salaf said, لا يتعلم إثنان مستكبر ومستحيا. An arrogant person and somebody who's too shy. And that's called haya madhmoom. And I've been going on a long time, but the last thing I'll finish is mizah, mirthfulness, jesting all the time. Mizah is a disease of the heart. And that does not mean that we can't be light from time to time. But we should not, and especially in these times, we should not be light people. We have to be weighty people, because we've been given a great amana, a great weightiness. And so my advice to myself and all of you is, first and foremost, to make a musharata with Allah, to implement what you've just heard. Really, and I'm making this with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we should make a serious effort in learning these things. We're living in dark ages, but we've been given the light of Islam. And I'll tell you something, one of the most powerful realities of this deen is it never leaves you without guidance, ever. And even if the hour is coming upon you, and in your hand is a fasila, then finish planting it. Look at, even when the hour comes, we have guidance. We know what to do. When the Titanic goes down, and I think it's going down, I could be wrong, we want to bring lifeboat. We want to bring the lifeboat of Islam. And we want to, come on board. There's plenty of room, right? Seriously, come on board. It's going to be tight, but hey, we've been to Mecca. We know what tight's like. It's no problem. We can be patient. Come on board. There's water, there's biscuits, not much, right? We look pretty pathetic right now, but it's a lifeboat. And the alternative is to sink. Right? So really, invite them on. We're on a lifeboat. It looks bad. We used to have a big ship just like they did. We used to have a big one, but it sunk like all ships sink. It went down. The Ottomans went down. The Seljuks went down. They all went down. Their ships went down. But whenever their ship went down, Allah survivors got on some lifeboats and went somewhere else and built a new one. Well, all we've got left is those lifeboats, but alhamdulillah, it's better than nothing. So let's use them and let's invite people on, inshallah. Jazakumullah khairan. Assalamu alaikum.